Hello everybody and welcome to this, my corner of the internet. I'm Decode and this is the third video in my third video in my series on OCR GCSE Computing. Then I'm going to talk about software, which surprisingly is the shortest part of the entire module, with only 3 parts on the syllabus, so yes, this should be short. So, first question on my list is, why does an operating system need a user interface, memory management, peripheral management, and multitasking and security? I love these questions so much. Okay, so an operating system needs to provide a user interface so that the user actually finds the computer useful. So if it was just a list of ones and zeros, or not even that without a user interface, it would be very difficult to interpret the data stored on the computer and be able to actually manipulate it. So I have here an example of code from this book here called How Do It Know? Good book if you're a nerd. And all that the code does is add 2 numbers, so minuses 21 from 37 from each other. Without a user interface, it's not very useful with a massive list of ones and zeros. But the moment you add a user interface, so say just with a basic calculator interface, which is buttons and a small screen, you get a very easy to read input and output. There are basically 3 different types of user interface that are commonly used, and those are the command line, which is basically where you type in commands and manipulate the data on a very low level. You then have a graphical user interface, or GUI, I pronounce it GUI. And that's basically you have a set of icons and buttons or menus that allow you to more easily navigate the computer and manipulate it on a very high level. And another common one that's more common amongst call centers and online and mobile banking is voice interface. So that's basically where you talk to the computer. The computer has software that recognizes your voice and sorts it out that way. Okay, so operating systems have different features. So I'm just going to go through some of the features. So operating systems come with memory management, and that's so that there are no clashes when you're storing data. So if that were to happen, then you'd end up with an awful lot of files that are marked as corrupt, a little bit like this icon here. And when the file is corrupted, it's very difficult to decorrupt it, and it's actually, I know that you can do it, but it's a bit of a hefty process that you don't really want to do. Another thing that operating systems tend to have is something called peripheral management. Peripherals are things that you plug into your computers, so your keyboard, your mouse, maybe a microphone. Those the things that you just plug in, those peripherals, because they're on the edge of the system, they're the very edge of your computer's capabilities. And the operating system will come with peripheral management in order to recognize where the data is coming from and how to interpret it properly, which makes it easier for developers, so they don't have to make a new version of their software for every new peripheral that's released. So my computer will work with this keyboard as well as any other keyboard that I might get. So next you have multitasking. So we touched on multitasking, I think, the last episode, and that was and basically the operating system organizes the multitasking process. It ensures that data is moved safely from the secondary storage to the RAM to the cache when it's needed, and then back again when it's not needed. This is just so that it saves space on the RAM and in the cache, so that data that's not being used is not taking up space that could be filled with useful data. Multitasking allows, as the name suggests, for the computer to hold multiple programs in the memory, so you could have something running in the background whilst also having a larger bit of software in the foreground and taking up a lot of space. A final thing that comes with operating systems is a very basic form of security, so that's just basically usernames and passwords. This is used so that you can protect your data and also keep your information, your data, separate from other users on the computer, so then you're not getting your data mixed up or being able to look at private files on somebody else's account. Okay, so it also seems wise to install certain bits. Some operating systems it also seems wise to install something called utility software. So most operating systems will come with a form of utility software. Most forms of utility software, however, some people choose to install their own preferred type of utility software. So there are two common types of utility software that are mentioned in the book. So this book here, if you can't remember, and those are security utilities and maintenance utilities. So security utilities are things like firewalls and anti-spyware stuff and antiviruses that stop malicious software and malicious users getting into your computer. So basic explanation of what a firewall is, it's basically something that limits the type and amount of data that can get in and out of your computer through your the outwards facing side of your network. So your home you're at home, you will have a network that's all connected to a router, and that router will then also allow you to access the internet. And yeah, we'll do networking later on in this series. Okay, so the maintenance utilities help with the organisation of data in the main memory. So in the secondary memory, you will have data, and it will be stored in a certain way, and that's usually fragmented. And it's stored that data is scattered all over the place in the memory, and that is because it's designed not to erode its memory. Okay, data is scattered across the hard disk on your computer in order to prevent a specific part of the hard disk from wearing out, because it's being accessed very frequently. So there are certain, however, some people choose to use something called defragmentation utility software, which basically groups together associated bits of data. So let's say you have a Word file, and that is scattered all over the disk, and you access this Word file quite often. And so you decide, hey, I'm going to defragment my disk so that I can access this data more quickly, because if it's close together, the arm on the memory doesn't have to go to as many places, meaning it is faster. However, this of course does cause some wear and tear to your disk, to your hard drive. Okay. Okay. Finally, we have different types of main software. So there are 4 different types of software. I know I've only got 3 drawn up here, but that is because I couldn't find a picture for one of them, and in fact that is the first one on the list, which is custom software. So custom software is the is software that's designed specifically for a client. So let's say you're part of a company, you will hire a developer to specifically make you this software, so that it meets your needs exactly. So a large retailer might have its own specific in-store software in order to make sure that it recognises barcodes and stuff. So I couldn't find any examples of custom software, because it's not usually open to the public for use. So yeah. Next is off-the-shelf software. So this is stuff that is readily available for the public to purchase and use. And there's things like the Microsoft software. So you've got Word and PowerPoint that are drawn up there. And yeah, it's just basically developed by a developer and sold to people, either as in physical form on a disc or over the internet. And it's general use, so it may have a few features that you maybe don't want. However, it's cheaper than buying custom software. Next, you have open source software, and I've actually got two examples that I may not have mentioned before, and those are Blender, which is an open source 3D animation software that's really good, and then also OBS, Open Broadcaster software, and that's what I'm using to record this at the moment. It's very useful. And basically, open source software is software that has its source code open and available to the public or programmers to view and edit as they want, and also to add their own versions of it, so develop new parts and plugins and things like that. It's a lot more, they're generally free, and yeah, that's about all I can say for open source. They tend to be, open source software tends to be fairly buggy. However, they do get the job done, and they're a lot cheap. They're free, which is a lot better if you're looking for a low budget way of doing things, like I am for creating this series. Finally, you have proprietary software, and that is software that is still owned by the developer, but that they then loan out to people to use. So they use this type of software tends to have a monthly fee. So the main version of this would probably be the Adobe Creative Cloud, or just an individual Adobe product. So Photoshop or Flash. Which has now actually been recently renamed as Adobe Animate. Very confusing. And yeah, it's usually very high quality, fairly high quality, and if you have off-the-shelf or custom, or if you have proprietary open or off-the-shelf software, there tend to be regular updates and a fairly good customer service if things go wrong. If you have custom software, however, there will probably not be very many updates fairly recently, and it actually can take the same amount or even longer than ordinary software to develop. Open source software, it has a rolling updating process and can actually sometimes just come to a full and horrible stop. So it's like, I found some open source software a little while ago for 2D animation called Pencil 2D, and sadly it hasn't been, as far as I know at this moment in time, it hasn't been updated for well over a year, and it was going really well, and then just the people who made it and updated it stopped, and that's not good, because I was looking forward to actually learning how to use it and use it properly to do stuff. It also has a very unreliable base of support, because there's no one person that can be held no one organisation or person that could be held accountable for the bugs and to go to complain about stuff. So yes, that is all I can really say about the software section. As I say, there are only 3 points on the syllabus about this software, about the software section. And so all I can say really is, if you enjoyed this video or think it would be helpful or useful in any way, or interesting maybe, make sure you like and subscribe. If you know somebody who might find it useful or find it enjoyable or interesting, make sure you share it with them, because I'm sure they will thank you, especially if they're doing this exam very soon. So yes, other than that, thanks for watching.